Excellent. So welcome to another session of our school board meet and greet. And this afternoon, I'm really pleased to welcome Education Unlimited. And Leo is here to tell us what Education Unlimited is about, what your philosophy is, and what you offer for parents for this coming fall. So welcome, Leo, and thanks for coming to spend this afternoon with us.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and welcome to all of you who are participating here this afternoon. I decided to just call it What Makes Us Different for the simple reason that that's what Judy asked me to do. She asked me to come out and say, tell us what makes you different. And a little byline there that I truly believe that the only way you can make a difference in this world is when you truly are different. And if you're not different, you're just doing what everybody else is doing. That means everyone's the same. So without further ado, we're going to start by simply pointing out that this is actually a contest between two opposing views. And the question is, why are we doing this? Parent motivation and goals is one thing, or versus the school board objectives. The idea is to connect those two so that we can actually make them work in favor of home education and of the parents. So we'll start by looking at some rules. And in home education in Alberta, we need to understand that all students between the ages of 6 and 16 in this province must be registered for education. Another thing that it makes Alberta truly unique is that it funds home education. And as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, it may be the only jurisdiction in North America, perhaps even the world, which does that. Certainly the only one in Canada to fully fund home education. And home education parents may register with any willing non-resident board. For those of you who don't understand that, a resident board is the board that you're sitting in. So if you're in Edmonton, as an example, it could be Edmonton Public School Board, in Calgary Board of Education. That's the resident board. But home education has been given the opportunity to register with any board anywhere in the province that is willing to register them, which is both a blessing and a curse. We'll talk about that a bit later. Home education parents have a choice in how their children will be educated. Once again, newbies or new parents oftentimes just don't see that or understand that, nor are they being told that, because there are some different motivations on behalf of boards. The home education supervision or a program must be supervised by a certificated teacher. There is an exception to that, and that is the newly minted notification only that was introduced with the new Choice in Education Act last June and starting last September, excuse me. And we're not going to take too much time to talk about that. If you're interested in the notification only, there is stuff on our website that you can go and see and learn about what that is. I put the word auto-funding education in Alberta because it's just the way it is. Public and separate schools are just funded at 100% of base plus additional programs, which amount to just about another 100%. When you do the average of how much money is spent in this province, it's $8.33 billion for the number of students that we have, approaching between 700 and 750,000. So do the math, and it ends up being quite a bit of money, around between $13,000 and $14,000 per student to put them in a public and separate school. Private schools are funded at 70% of base if they are following government program and they do not have access to any of the additional programs. The home education are actually funded at 25% of base. And again, they have no access to any of the additional program. The 25% of base, when you take a look at the public separate being 100% base plus the additional program, as I mentioned earlier, is about 200%, means that home education actually is funded at around 12.5% of what a similar or what a student can get in the public or separate school board. Now, schools and parents may choose to decline the funding. So just because home education funding is provided does not mean that parents who are home educating have to accept that funding. And many don't for whatever reason. Private schools also, public and separate schools would never refuse it. But there are some private schools that refuse their funding simply because by refusing the funding, they are absolved from having to follow government program and from having to hire certificated students. There's, I'm guessing, probably under 50 of those schools in the province. The majority of them are private Mennonite schools that use their own program and they hire their own teachers. And the only thing they really do have to do is you put in a certain number of days and make sure that the children are duly registered with the government as being in an education program in the province. One thing that should be clear, and that is that the more funding is involved, the less freedom is involved. So again, the schools that choose not to take the funding, they actually have far more freedom in choosing programs and teachers. Home education is the same way. The less funding involved, the more freedom there is. And those that decide to not accept any funding at all do so largely on philosophical basis, thinking that to accept the funding is to accept government authority over their programs. Once again, we don't argue, but this is how it works. Now, for modes of education, I used to say that there were 3 possibilities, but the new COVID lockdowns actually clarified that for me. We have school at school, what we all regularly know as put the children on the bus, send them to school. Here, the school is 100% in control and gets 100% of the funding. A new thing that was really normalized this year is where you have school at home. In other words, it's the same school program, it's just that it was sent home. You'll notice that the schools are fighting for control. They get the same funding, so they didn't lose any funding. The reference to the fighting for control is that when the students were sent home, the parents were watching what's going on. And if you've been reading the news, you'll find that a lot of the teachers are quite frustrated having the parents involved in their education program. So there's a bit of a contest there as to who actually is in authority when the children are sitting at home, yet being educated from school. Homeschooling is often interchanged with the home education, but I refer to it as being school is largely in control, and there is some variation in funding here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing public programming. I also include programs like Abeka, Bob Jones, ECLE, Alpha Omega, where they essentially is just a schooling program. It's all the different subjects over 12 years, and the curriculum essentially is running the show. Home education, on the other hand, is where parents are mostly in control. That is, and they can get up to 25% funding. And when I say mostly in control, is that there is some divisions here, but they are still using curriculum and so on. And then finally, there is the unschooling. And the best way to describe that is just not like school. Parents are fully in control here, and they can accept or decline the 20% funding. The same thing with home education. When it comes to the home education funding, whether they're homeschooling, home educating, or unschooling, it's 25% can be, that's the maximum that they're going to get. With homeschooling, if the school is more in control, the school gets more funding while the parent gets less funding, and the school gains more control while the parent exchanges with less control. So those are the 5 modes of education that I've come up with. As you can see, as you go from school to unschooling, there's a decreasing funding, but at the same time, there's increasing parental authority and freedom. So I hope that clarifies some things for some people. We can blend these things, and what happens is that there is increased financial benefits with use of government program. That is, the more government program that you use, it actually is paid for at a much higher rate than non-governmental program. So homeschoolers, as an example, if they're using government program, the school who's sponsoring that gains up to 4 times as much. And even in some of these other programs, as we've got here, like aligned or online or shared responsibility or even high school credit. So what happens is that all schools providing government programs have a natural temptation to frustrate or to coerce parent-determined programming to replace it with these other ones because it just simply funded at a higher level. And from a pure business perspective, that is what often frustrates parents with respect to the school that they're associated with. How do you avoid that? How do you maximize the freedom? Well, there's only one solution there, and that is not to associate with an agency that is actually offering government programming. It's not that all agencies offering government programming will frustrate parent-directed programming, but from a pure business perspective, the less parent-directed programming or the more government programming, the more income for the home education provider. The COVID lockdowns, that really surprised me. Judy and I were talking about that at the beginning, and what was the most amazing thing is that when they sent the children home, it really indicated how ill-prepared the Department of Education was respecting the delivery of programs in the home. What it did do is it normalized online delivery of government program at home, which means that these organizations that were offering home education now had even more incentive to push or offer or whatever, manipulate parents into doing more government programming. I predicted that that was going to happen, and indeed it did. Many organizations that in the past never offered shared responsibility suddenly found themselves offering shared responsibility. Now, while this may be indeed desired by some, it actually encouraged or increased government interference in home education programs. So we saw that as a negative impact on home education generally. Now, parents were suddenly faced with having to choose with many more options. I'm sure some of you would remember that last fall, there was a new home education providing agency coming up nearly every day, and pretty well every school board in the province suddenly created a special school that was going to deliver home education. And many of them, of course, with zero experience, but they all had a real need for attracting the parents to their programming. So really, it also is extending school influence into the home. This last one, though, I did not predict. There were many parents who were sitting on the fence right from the start. They were questioning whether their children should or should not be in school. When the schools got shut down and all the children sent home, many parents said, you know what, we've been thinking about this for years, and that decided to just disconnect from school. That particular group of people seemed to have burnt the bridge back to it. Most of the people that we attracted were those that were truly wanting to unschool, and those were the ones that found Education Unlimited to be the school to support them. Most of them have no intention of returning to the school system, even if the COVID lockdowns are ended. Excuse me for a minute. We want to talk about Education Unlimited service. We want to tell you that we do not, have never provided or support government programming at all. We do not provide online. We do not provide aligned or shared responsibility, what used to be called blended programming. And we do not support government accreditation for high school. Before we all get concerned about that, how successful are we with completely unaligned government programming, even at the high school and post-secondary level? I guess the best word to use that is to say that we have had incredible success, and all we're doing is offering education from a different paradigm. So that gives us our first decision. And that decision is, if public programming and government directives is what you want to follow in your home-based program, then Education Unlimited may not be the right home education agency with which to associate. On the other hand, if parental authority and autonomy is important to you, then because we don't offer government programming, we may indeed be the right place for you. But that's a decision you're going to have to make. Our worldview, the vast majority of our people are coming from a Christian perspective. We are unapologetically that way. We're honestly that way. We don't, we follow a simple Christian mandate to love God by demonstrating an unconditional love for all others. And then we are doing our best to live out or walk in our faith every day and in every way. So no surprises. What we do want to say is that you have to make a decision here as well. If our Christian worldview is something that you disagree with or are uncomfortable with or simply can't abide, then Education Unlimited may not be the right home education agency with which to associate. Education Unlimited does not include anybody. That's one thing I want to make clear. We simply want you to know that we are coming from this Christian worldview perspective so that there are no surprises. We also want to point out that if you accept our Christian perspective and or if this is really important to you, we may indeed be the place for you to be. I do want to make one more statement, though. This is important, that not all agencies are open about, dedicated to, or even honest about their worldview perspective. It's no secret that I would think the majority of home educating parents in this province are coming from a Christian worldview perspective. And as a consequence, it's probably a very, very good thing to have if marketing is your objective. So be warned, check it out, make sure that the claims are indeed legitimate. Next thing we want to talk about in terms of Education Unlimited is our use of modern technology. Whether we would agree or support the use of modern technology or not, all future citizens or today's students will have to use it. Once again, going back to our little pre-talk that Judy and I had, is we were amazed at how many universities and schools simply did not know how to use the technology that our kids have been using on a daily basis. So if we're truly preparing students for the future, I think we should probably forget the past. Our collective job then is to prepare students for the future and not our past. I'm repeating myself. We have been using a fully digital home education management system for a great many years. Matter of fact, we boast that we were the very, very first school in the entire province of Alberta to use digital student records. And that's 22 years ago. It took 20 years for the government to mandate the use of digital student records. We were 20 years ahead of them. All processes that we have are been digitized, they're automated and available to everyone 24/7, 365. We're paperless. We do have some people who would prefer to get paper, and we will work with them, but they're becoming rarer and rarer as the years go by. That makes us truly unique among other providers. It is fully digital in every way. And so we do point out that that's what really makes us different. So let's have a quick look-see for ourselves. I'm just going to take a few minutes here to take us to the website, and we'll have a look at how we are digital. You'll see we've got lots of stuff here, but we're going to start with home. Why home education? Why us? And how do I get started? And about us, for those that are interested in that, there's all the staff. You can read about that later on. I don't need to read this for you, but these are the people that are associated with Education Unlimited. Going back, contact us. Again, that's pretty obvious, but if you are looking to register with us, you go here and go register through Education Unlimited. I want you to notice that we don't have a big red button that says, come, to us, or register with us, because we want to provide a service. Here we have a program resources listing, and I want to just take you there for a little bit. We'll just click on that. And here, if I just scoot ahead, you'll see that we have, I don't know, pretty well 200 or more different agencies that are listed here to provide all kinds of resources for programs. Okay, this is for program stuff. Now, because there's so much to choose from, we have created some filters. You can filter by subject, as you can see, by type, vendor, website, if you're looking for an iOS app or other, and you can determine the level, primary, secondary, post-secondary, and what it is that you're looking for. So quickly showing if we're going English and we're looking for a vendor and we're looking for it as a secondary and we're looking for books, then what it'll do is it'll just reduce the entire list down to the people who fit those criteria. The other thing that we find in program resources, and again, this program resources incidentally is used not just by our families, but it's used by people across Canada. I know that because I'm told every once in a while how much it is used. So this is a service that's provided to the entire home education community, not just for those who are associated with us. The other one, excuse me, post-secondary admissions, is another thing that completely separates us. Nobody else has ever done this. We started this at the beginning of the turn of the millennium. I actually did my initial study in 2000, 2001. And since then, we have had home educating, post-secondary institutions from the entire province. I think they're all listed here. Every Bible college, every community college, institutions of arts and technology, every university. There's very, very little that we have not got here. And all of them are there telling us how they will accommodate the home education. You'll notice that little green check. We'll just go here to community colleges. The green checks are people who are really, really friendly for unaccredited home educating students. Now, those that don't have a check does not mean that their doors are closed. It just means that they have not actually come up with admission criteria that are just open. For instance, if you go to university, this one here, of course, is a joke, the Athabasca University. It's stated that all you need to go there is a heartbeat and a credit card, of course. So these people are wide open, and we never have problems having our students accepted by that. And then, of course, because it was so popular in Alberta, you can see we've got institutions from across Canada that want to be a part of this as well. Once again, this is a service that's being offered to everyone in the entire province. I'm going to skip the subject tutors. We're still working on that. But the apprenticeships, this is the Alberta apprenticeship system. And if you go to the industry and trade website, very, very complicated. Can't understand how it works. So one of our facilitators to put this together so that it is much simpler, easier for those students who are interested in going into the trades to get information. And again, all the links are there. We're not going to spend time doing that, but I certainly encourage you to send your trades-directed hands-on student in that direction. All of these things under program resources are available to everybody anywhere in the world. When we go to parental support, upcoming events, we'll just click on that. You'll see that today's event is here. When you click on that, it's all here. That will disappear this evening because it's going to be past tense. Again, all of these things are automated. We also are the only one that I know of that keep the home educating community current as far as what's happening. Obviously, it's been fairly quiet since January 29th of this year, but you can go back and take a look at a lot of things here to stay on top of the latest politics, etc. I'm going to skip Leo's insights for a moment. There's a home education guide. I highly recommend this for everyone. There's the introduction. There's a disclaimer that we put in there so everybody understand. Getting started, which is beginning. Running the race is once you've hit cruise control. Finishing strong is the secondary years, or if you will, the high school years, and beyond home education is obviously the post-secondary years. Highly recommended for everyone, no matter what stage you're at. Now, just like we had program resource listings under program resources, we have parent resource listings as well. This is put together. I should mention that both program and parent resource listings is also being done by one of our facilitators, doing a fantastic job. And once again, we have tons of listings of things to help parents. This is helping parents to help their children. Just to show you the bunch of stuff that we have in dyslexia, my favorite since I am dyslexic. These are all really, really good resources. And again, if you're looking to, for specifics, you can just use the filters to, filter out until you get to what you're looking for. So home education mentors is another thing that makes us unique, and that is we've got families who are either home educating or long ago home educated, finished with their own families and had so much fun that they want to help young home educating families to continue. We have them by region, but needless to say, in a digital world, you can be in the south and still go into the northeast, where it will list the people who have volunteered to be home education mentored. Or you can live in Edmonton and you can go to the corridor if you want. And these are the people who have volunteered to be home education mentors. So that's again something that really separates us from the rest. Helping others is just that. We have some different ministries that we encourage people to get involved with should they want to go beyond. We have a library of existing all kinds of goodies in here that once again open to the whole world. And the FAQs, what would a website be without FAQs? Once you click any of these things, the answer to the question is right there. Finally, and I might have a little trouble here because I got something. We have the My EU. And you can see there that we have the schedule, program plans. Not quite sure what the other one is because I'm covered. And family student documents, managing funds, your facilitator account. That is the only part of our website that truly is secured to the family. That's the family's personal piece of real estate that has all the stuff related to their home education program. When you see the family and student document, that means that all documentation that we have for the family and for the students is made available to the parents 24/7, 365. No need to have to go to ask the school board for access to the records because they're there for you. All right, that was running through our website in a real rush. So we'll continue here with another decision. And that decision is if using a fully digital system is not what you want, and maybe you're a little bit technologically challenged, and maybe Education Unlimited may not be the right home education agency for which you should join. Having said that, many people who were not technologically or who were technologically challenged were really surprised by just how easy the system is to use. It's very user-friendly. On the other hand, if you like saving time on administrative processes, we're not doing any online programming. It's just that all the planning and all the goals and assessments and transcripts, all of that is all available to the parents to make their lives easier. If that's what you're looking for, Education Unlimited is there. You can use all of these things anytime you want from wherever. So we are different. We are very, very different in these ways. We want to point out that money was not and never has been a reason for our existence. We put this thing together in 1999. It was created in response to something that I've seen really, really accelerated in these last few years. And that was the commoditization of students. I was a public high school teacher for 25 years. What I didn't like is that while I was dealing with real live human beings, the school saw them as numbers worth X number of dollars. And unfortunately, that particular idea has crawled into the home education community to the point where we're even now trying to normalize the incredibly dysfunctional use of special needs That is another industry I don't even want to get into, but it was enough to make me throw up as a high school teacher. So we wanted to do this to provide a sanctuary so that parents could escape the deterioration of parental control due to the increased encouragement of public programming use. Again, the encouragement of public programming use is not usually in the best interest of the parents, especially not those seeking freedom, but most certainly does provide greater income for providers. I want to talk for a minute about the ministry. I think that it's pretty simple. We want to enable parents to take responsibility for the education of their children. We want to help them meet all provincial requirements, and we do in every way. And we believe in themselves as their children's best teachers. That's part one of the ministry. In part two, we also want to equip them. We want to equip them by teaching parents how to fish, to educate their children themselves, rather than giving them a fish, which is a playing school. Don't worry, we'll do it for you. We want to teach the parents to do it. We want to equip the parents by providing them with innumerable resources for accomplishing their goals. We did a real cursory review of that. Part three of our ministry is encouraging parents. We want to make sure that they trust their instincts about their own children. And we want them to stay the course from beginning to end. We always seem like failures when parents take their children back to accreditation at the high school level. That is certainly not our heart. And we want to do that with our 30 plus years of unschooling experience. My wife and I, Faye, who run Education Unlimited, we've been home educating now, either our own children and grandchildren, but we've been 35 years of unschooling. So that's the ministry. Oh, there's one more. I like this one. We're there to empower parents, to empower them to take their rightful authority over the children's education, and to help them, to empower them to grow together as a family. That is the ministry of Education Unlimited. Is that enough to make us different from the rest? I don't know. Maybe so, maybe not. You'll have to be the judge. Ask those people who are associated with us already, and they'll tell you how they see it. So that does bring us to another decision. And that decision is, if you want others to direct your home education program, then Education Unlimited is most likely not the right home education agency with which to associate. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to hold your hand for a very short time, but we're not going to make you do what you do not want to do. On the other hand, if that's what you're looking, or if you're looking to be supported and encouraged to take the control, and if that's important to you, then indeed that's what Education Unlimited does, and that is a good reason to become part of the family of families. Okay, just a few more considerations here. Funding. It's one of the first questions we get. To my chagrin, I have to say, is that if that's the reason why you're home educating, I can tell you already, we're not the place to come. We're not motivated by money at all. We do consider funding to be a privilege and a blessing, and we are careful to help parents spend it in a reasonable, appropriate, but when parent resource funding is not declined. However, when it becomes the focus, then it's a problem. In 2021, 22, next year, we're expecting it to stay pretty well where it was, which is about $850 per student. And that's I'm going to say that's the maximum funding that you're likely to get, because that's what is mandated by law. Although sometimes some parents might offer a buck or two or $10 or something as a marketing ploy. Submissions for reimbursement are made super easy with a digital option and electronic fund transfer. When we developed this program 6 years ago, we actually expected, maybe 20% of our families would take advantage of that. We were thunderstruck to find 82% or 83, somewhere between 80 and 85% of the families the very first year using it. And even more surprised that the vast majority of them were doing it all with their cell phone. And it's just so easy. At first, of course, it's brand new and it's a little bit daunting, but when you do it, when you don't let fear get in the way, it's very, very easy to use, and parents love it. Our facilitators, what a bunch of great people. They all have from home education experience from beginning to end. And they make every effort to meet with you in your home. This year, we're still doing face-to-face meeting if the parents are open to that. If the parents are not, well, then we'll accommodate them in whatever way. And that could be a Zoom meeting, it could be a phone call. But, and sometimes it's an accommodation in that we'll meet with you, but outside. I prefer a warm day personally, but well, we do whatever the families want because the families, the parents are our bosses. We work for them. And also, they all clearly understand and honor that authority. As I mentioned, the parents are the boss. We come to visit you, encourage you as friends to be welcome. We will not be telling you what to do, and you should never feel that you're coerced by any of our facilitators. Incidentally, if any facilitator does come along and start telling you what to do or looking down their long professional noses and telling you that you're doing enough or not doing enough or not doing it right, the best thing to do is exchange that facilitator for one who's going to honor the authority that you have as parents over your children. What else? Well, we're leaders in transitioning unaccredited students to the post-secondary level. I don't know of any other agency that is as well acquainted and as successful with this. And I do have to mention that our cumulative online transcript, that is basically a program by which we translate from the language of unschooling or home education to the language of school so that the post-secondary institutions can understand it, has been very, very successful. They are fully secured, and the post-secondary institutions get a link to the thing, and they know nobody can possibly tamper with them. So they're getting the real McCoy. It's parent generated, facilitator reviewed, and it has been very successful. We continue to be contributors to the causes of the greater home education community of this province and beyond. I believe the website speaks for itself. And let's face it, we're just a bunch of nice folks, honestly wanting to help and serve you in your home-based, non-governmental home education program. Which leads us to a final decision. I had final, but it sounds too final. But really, in the end, if you're not interested in being associated with a very experienced, long-time home educators, or to have the latest technology make your efforts in home education as easy as possible, or to be encouraged to take control of your family's education, well, I'm going to suggest you find yourself another agency with which to associate. However, should you desire all this and more, and you want to be a part of this family of families known as Education Unlimited, well, you're welcome to join us, and we would be honored to serve you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to stop screen sharing now, and I guess Judy is going to take it from here.
Wow. That's awesome. I love your PowerPoint. I love the scroll effect. That's very nice.
Well, I guess I put a little plug in for Apple computers. I guess I've been on them forever, and I really enjoy. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm using it.
Good.
All right. I see that.
Questions.
All right.
So feel free to write questions in the chat box, or, if you want to just talk to Leo, just put your hand up and we can unmute you. That would work too. Leo, I forgot how much you did have on your website. There's just amazing resources there, and that really does set you apart. And it's so great that you've made that available to the public, which is very, very helpful. Very helpful. So while we're waiting for questions, I had a few. I was just wondering, it's great you got mentors. Do you have a parent support group, either like online, or do you meet up in different areas? Is there a formal, informal parent support groups?
I guess the short answer to that would be yes. The families that know each other from Education Unlimited, they do indeed communicate and so on. Do we have an official, certain area support group that includes everyone? No, that is the job of perhaps more provincial organizations than for us. Having said that, we do have the home ed unschoolers. I think it's called Unschoolers with Education Limited or Education Limited Unschoolers Facebook group that apparently is quite popular. And again, because we are so virtual, we are virtual in every possible way, that our groups are, as we are experiencing today, doing this kind of Facebook, Zoom, online kind of getting together. Needless to say, a lot of the people who are registered with us know each other, and they maybe attend the same church or something. And we find that oftentimes when we go see parents, it's not just parents, but a whole group of people who want to meet at the same time, which is lots of fun.
It is, absolutely. Now, I know this pertains to money, but it is a question people ask. Are you able to offer purchase orders for families if they want a purchase order?
I would say that just about all those companies that you saw listed, those 200 or so that are listed, pretty well all have purchase order agreements with us. So yeah, that's pretty well standard. Every once in a while, some new outfit will come up and somebody says, I'd like a purchase order. And first thing we do is contact them and see if they want to get a purchase order agreement with us. If they do, we set that up and then it's a go ahead. There is a bit of a proviso there, though. I believe that we have problems working with super duper American-centered agencies, such as ABECA. What happens with them is that by the time they set the books and by the time they bill us, the exchange rate on a time can be a little different. And we've seen them make a big deal over less than $1. So when it comes to purchasing American curriculum, there is, for instance, with Bob Jones University Press, which is American, there is a Canadian distributor in Ontario. But with ABECA, there's not. So parents in that case will have to pay out of pocket and then submit. And because of our digital system, it can work so fast that they can actually have the money in the bank before they actually get their credit card statement. So that's another advantage of going digital.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. And are you like every home education program has to be associated with a school? Are you with a school? Yeah, you must be, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're associated with a school. Yeah, and that's what allows us to continue because we need to have a school to register the students and we need to have a school through which the funding is provided. Yeah.
Okay. All righty, got it. Okay, I think that's it for questions. It's easy when you don't offer online.
Right.
It's just simple, right? Simple.
I guess you can say I did such a thorough job at telling people who we are that there's no questions. We'll put it that way. But I did my best to try and show everyone who we are, what we offer, and how indeed we are different from the rest. So.
And very good, and really, really, really good different perspectives. We do have a question. When can people start registering with you?
Now, for next year. Sure. Yeah. So a lot of people are just chomping at the bit. However, I have to say that the student has to have turned 5 before January 1 of this year. And we've got some home educating families that are so excited. They're wanting to register their 2.5 and 3-year-olds because they can hardly wait to get going. But home education started the day the child was born and never ends. So really, it's just a matter of officially registering, and students are not obligated to register until they're fully 6 years old.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think generally at when can people start? Like, do they start in February registering, or is there a start date when people can start notifying?
Yeah, the problem with February and March, at least those 2 months, are a bit problematic because they're in the middle of a school year. So once again, what truly makes us different from other home education agencies is that even though we are fully aware of the fact that there is no funding for people who register after the September 30th deadline, we accept students after September 30th anyways, because we're more a ministry than we are in marketing. So we help those families and nobody gets paid. The families don't get paid, neither does the administration, neither do the facilitators who often volunteer to help these families out. So once again, unlike a lot of outfits, I have actually heard some saying, sure, we'll register you, but it will cost you X number of dollars for us to do it. We don't do that. We're here as a ministry. The website speaks for itself, and we certainly hope that our actions with respect to that speaks for itself. Having said that, we can also be marked. And there are people who know this, who come to us essentially just to get them through the year, and they're gone. So we do all the work only to have them move on. And we're disappointed for two reasons. Nobody likes working for nothing, and we feel like we might not have been able to truly get it. So we do our job to try and vet people to make sure that it's a proper fit. The first slide in that presentation was, what are the parent motivation and goals? And does that fit with the school's objectives? And if that's a fit, good. And if it's not, we often invite people to maybe go find someone that is more in keeping. A standard one is where people want to join us. They want to bring all the schoolwork home. They want us to take care of them for the rest of the year and then bring all the schoolwork back to school. We simply don't do that. We just simply say, continue to work with the school. And usually it's some kind of a contest between the student's teacher and the parents now that they've come home. So we don't want to get involved in that brouhaha.
Gee. Well, that's very nice that, you provide that service, and that's very, very helpful to a lot of families for sure.
Right.
One question we have is, do I have to live in the Edmonton area to register, or do you go province-wide?
We cover the entire province. We go from border to border to border. And again, we're virtual in every way. So we are in everybody's living room as long as they go to www.educationunlimited.ca.
Okay. Great. Good. That's awesome. Okay. I think that's it for questions. I think I've covered mine. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't see any hand come up, and I did see those other ones come up. So that's good. Well, I want to thank you once again, Judy, for giving me this opportunity to share this time with you. And with those that I attended, I want to thank everyone who did attend. And I hope that somehow or other I've been able to enlighten you as to how we indeed are different. And have a good day, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leo, for taking time out of your afternoon. This was very valuable and helpful to a lot of people. I've heard from a lot of people, they've watched the videos over the year and they've picked their board on the videos. So thank you. And thank you for the explanation on how a few things work. So that was helpful.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Until next time. Okay. Bye now.